All right, today we're jumping into a really intense moment from the book of Ezekiel. It's this incredible story about divine silence and a long, long history of rebellion. So I want you to just picture this for a second. Your leader, your people are in the middle of a huge crisis. You go to the one person who you think can get a direct word from God, and the answer you get back is just a hard no. That's it. Total refusal. That is exactly the scene we are walking into right now. And you know what's wild? The Bible gives us the exact date for this showdown. August 14th, 591 BC. So you've got this group of Israelite elders. These are the community leaders, right? They're in exile in Babylon, and they show up at the prophet Ezekiel's door, just desperate for a word from God. Anything. So you can just imagine them, right? They're sitting there, they're waiting. They're probably expecting, some guidance, maybe a little bit of hope for what's next. But what they get is just silence. A complete refusal from God. He will not speak to them. And the message comes through with a force of an oath. God says, "As I live, I will not be inquired of by you." Wow. So that's the big question, isn't it? Why? What on earth could they have done to deserve a complete and total shutdown like that? Well, finding that answer is what this is all about. So instead of a prophecy about the future, God tells Ezekiel to give them a history lesson. And this is not some feel-good story. It's more like a legal indictment, a spiritual smackdown. He's told to make them face the abominations on their fathers, and he takes them all the way back, all the way back, to where their nation began, in Egypt. Okay, so here's the original deal, the covenant. It was pretty straightforward. God says, "I choose you, Israel. I'm going to make myself known to you. I'm going to give you this amazing land flowing with milk and honey. And in return, he asks for just one thing, their loyalty. That's it. He tells them, get rid of the idols of Egypt." And right out of the gate, from the very beginning, while they were still slaves in Egypt, the deal was broken. They rebelled. They just couldn't let go of the very idols they were told to reject. And this one act, sadly, set the pattern for basically the rest of their entire history. Which, leads to a huge question, right? If they broke the deal on day one, why did God even bother with the Exodus? Why not just scrap the whole project then and there? The answer to that? Well, it tells us a lot about God's character and what's really driving him. All right, so the story moves on from Egypt. Now we're in the wilderness, and you'd think the next generation, the ones who saw all of God's power firsthand, would get it right. But nope, they didn't learn the lesson. They passed that same rebellious streak right on down to their own kids. And here, you can see the cycle just laid out plain as day. It's like a broken record. On one hand, you have God giving them these amazing gifts, his laws that lead to life, his Sabbaths to mark them as his own. And on the other hand, Israel's response is always the same. They rebel, they hate his laws, they trash his Sabbaths. And what does God do over and over? He holds back. He doesn't destroy them. Okay, this brings us to a really tough verse. God says he gave them statutes that were not good. Now, this is a tricky one. It doesn't mean God is creating evil laws. What it really means is that he let them have what they wanted. He gave them over to the natural consequences of their own bad choices. They wanted the destructive, idolatrous laws of other nations, stuff like child sacrifice, and God basically said, fine, you want to see how that works out for you? Go ahead. He let them feel the full, awful weight of their decisions. So if they were constantly rebelling in Egypt, in the wilderness, why did God keep sparing them? Why not just give up on them? Well, now we get to the absolute heart of the matter. This is the core reason for God's restraint, and it is crucial for understanding this whole thing. The key phrase, and you hear it again and again, is that God acted for my name's sake. This is the big idea. God's mercy had nothing to do with Israel's performance, because, let's be honest, they had none. His actions were all about protecting his own reputation, his own character for being faithful and powerful, especially in front of all the other nations who were watching. Just think about it from the outside looking in. If God pulls off all these insane miracles to get Israel out of Egypt, and then just lets them die in the desert, what's everyone else going to think? They'd say, oh, I guess his power ran out. Or, see, there God breaks his promises. His name, his entire global reputation would be dragged through the mud. But this whole history lesson, this whole indictment, it's not just about the past. Just when you think it's all doom and gloom, the prophecy takes this sharp turn.
It pivots from all that judgment to a pretty shocking promise about the future.
God promises that someday he's going to gather his scattered people from all over the world. But, and this is a big but, it's not some automatic free pass back to blessing. He says first he's going to bring them into a new kind of wilderness, a wilderness of the people. Think of it like another trial period, a time of testing where he's going to judge them face to face and weed out all the rebels. And to explain this whole purging process, Ezekiel uses this amazing picture. The phrase pass under the rod comes from what ancient shepherds used to do. Imagine this. A shepherd makes his whole flock walk through a narrow gate one by one. And as they pass, he takes his rod, maybe dipped in some color, and marks every 10th animal. That one is now set apart for the Lord. It's this picture of a really careful, personal selection process to find that faithful group. And what's just incredible is that this prophetic pattern, this cycle of a devastating purge followed by a miraculous restoration, we've actually seen it play out multiple times in Israel's history. Think about it. The Babylonian exile, a total purge, was followed by the return under Persia. And then, much more recently, the horrific purge of the Holocaust was followed by the reestablishment of the State of Israel in 1948. The pattern holds. But the ultimate goal, the whole point of all this, it isn't just about getting the land back. It's about pure worship. The final promise is that on God's holy mountain, this new, purified, restored Israel will finally serve him together. They'll finally be in a right relationship with him. And this really brings us to the core principle of the whole thing. The gift of the promised land is completely tied to the responsibility of loyalty. You just can't have one without the other. And that's a theme you see woven all the way through the scriptures, from beginning to end. So in the end, this is the lesson those elders sitting in front of Ezekiel were supposed to get. This is the lesson all of Israel was meant to learn, that their survival, their restoration, their very existence, it was never because they were so good or so righteous. It was 100% a testament to God's stubborn commitment to his own name and his own promises. And that just puts the tension at the heart of this chapter into super sharp focus, doesn't it? It leaves us with this really profound question to chew on. What is the line between mercy and reputation? And how does understanding that God is motivated by his own main, how does that change the way we look at everything?